Let's talk some Georgia recruiting as the Dogs beat Tennessee 31-17 and Athens was buzzing. That big game feeling, it was back, and so were the big-time recruits. Hundreds of recruits on campus for this primetime SEC battle. We got Jeremy Johnson from Dogs HQ on this video. We're going to go behind the scenes, some of the biggest recruitments of the weekend. But first, Dog fans, do me a favor right now and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We love talking Dogs recruiting, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Jeremy Johnson from Dogs HQ. Jeremy, we talked, and it felt like this was almost like Georgia's first home game of the season. What was the atmosphere like before kickoff?
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was the first time they played a home game. I mean, it's been, 37, 38 days, something like that. So that was a huge gap. Just the way the schedule worked out, but the atmosphere in there Saturday was electric. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Every recruit that I've talked to, that is the first thing that has come to their attention was how electric the atmosphere was, and rightfully so. I mean, they added some new wrinkles to the game day experience, fireworks, the red lights were on display, and just having a DJ throughout the game. It was a different vibe in there on Saturday night for sure.
Yeah, it was a different vibe, and seeing some of those Tennessee commitments on campus was kind of cool. They brought in wide receiver Travis Smith Jr., Christian Gass, the linebacker. What do you think a game like this, do you think it would have an impact on some of these Tennessee commitments?
Absolutely. Those guys being able to, for one thing, seeing Georgia and seeing Tennessee play on the football field and kind of being able to compare, okay, well, this is where Tennessee is as a program. This is where Georgia is as a program. But then also all the pomp and circumstance around the game. It's like, do I feel like I could be in this, the next 3 to 4 years? And that's a big say. I mean, it's one thing in the summer when you take official visits and you can see all these things in theory or in hypothetical, but when you see it play out on the field and in person, feel the atmosphere, you kind of get a real feel of where you feel comfortable. So I definitely think anytime, I mean, and that goes for any can recruit committed elsewhere, that just being able to get on campus and feel that energy is something that you can't project. You kind of have to feel it first.
Yeah, and both Travis Smith and Christian Gass are from the state of Georgia, so maybe it gives them a little taste of like, hey, you can stay home and do all these things that you want to accomplish as well. We'll see what happens. We're going to be talking Georgia recruiting throughout the week. Now, I also wanted to hit on Julian Lewis. What was it like seeing Julian Lewis in the stands, and do you think that we're going to be taught, because it's only 3 weeks between now and signing day. Do you think that after this weekend, we're still going to continue to talk about Lewis and the Dogs?
I mean, it's hard. That's hard to say right now. I mean, I think there is some good things that he saw out of Georgia, but I mean, he's kind of seen everything Georgia has to offer at this point. He's been there 15 times. The fact that he popped up and showed up this late in the cycle is not something to sneeze at, and I think he wouldn't waste his time. And they wouldn't waste their time taking him and hosting him. I mean, he was there alongside Ryan Montgomery, their commit, and
right.
Jared Curtis was also there. So the fact that they found a space for him to be there says a lot. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, Georgia will continue to be there. They have kind of, been around a little bit. So, we'll see what the next 2 weeks hold. But I'm not really, here to say that's going to be a slam dunk and that's something that's really going to happen at this point. We'll see. We'll see at this point.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling. Like, I think the assumption is that Georgia's just all in on Julian Lewis, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Do you?
No, I mean, they've offered 3 guys now in the 2025 class. I know they are actively looking.
So you got Jerron Key Sagapulatelli, who's committed to Cal. Kamario Taylor, who they recently committed, who's committed to Mississippi State.
Yep.
And now you got Julian Lewis in there too, but I don't feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel the same sense of urgency with Lewis as with the other two.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's also they've known him for a long time. They've recruited him for a long time. So it's what else is there to say, at this point? I mean, they kind of know the Lewis family and Julian know who Mike Bobo is, and Mike Bobo knows who they are. So it's kind of like, all right, what you're feeling at this point. So I did think it was interesting that they added an offer to Stanford commit Bear Batchmeyer on Friday night. So that's another name that's thrown in there. So you just never know. I mean, there's a good relationship there between Lewis and Georgia, but you know, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's committed to USC right now, and obviously Colorado is a team with a lot of momentum, and they may not be the only team that's still
Yeah, we'll
pushing
see
for
if
him.
Georgia becomes a factor down the stretch. Now, I wanted to wrap it up by talking about number one linebacker Tyler Atkinson. Now, he's the number one player in the state of Georgia for 2026 as well. Where do you think the Dogs stand with him early? Because he's been all over this fall. He's been out to USC and everywhere in between, really. Tyler Atkinson, going to be one of the most highly coveted prospects in the 2026 cycle. Where do you think the Dogs stand right now?
I definitely think Georgia's in that top group. They've made him a priority, and it's not been a secret. He's been one of those guys that Glenn Schumann has recruited personally for a long time. So I think that they're going to be high on his board. Auburn, Texas, Ohio State, those type of programs will be contenders. I would even say Tennessee has a shot. So those are kind of the group that's going to be there to battle Georgia, and I think that's going to be the case until he decides to sign. I mean, wherever he commits the first time around or whenever he commits, I know he's a loyal guy, and I think he will remain locked in with whoever he commits to when he does make that decision. But none of those programs have a reason to stop recruiting him because he's a very valuable player to all those guys. He's probably one of the best football players in the state of Georgia at any position right now. So he's something to watch.
Yeah, he absolutely is. So Georgia fans, talk to us. How are you guys feeling about quarterback recruiting? Do you want Julian Lewis, or is your top target somebody else? Let us know. Comment section below.